Myra from sacredsoulpractice.com, though we're changing our website soon. Welcome of the Trauma Informed Leadership Masterclass. Thank you for your patience. Zoom was being cranky, so it's okay. We're here. We're so happy that you're here. Let me know when you hop on, what you're doing, how you're feeling today. Getting all of the places queued up. I'm so happy for us today that we get to be here and share all of the things. Diana, thank you. John, I'm so glad you're here. So happy you're here. Because Zoom was being cranky. I don't know if I can upload my PowerPoint in this little thingy, but let's see. Oh, I think I can. Yay. This is firsthand. How do I update streaming? To have your tech person help you with these kinds of things beforehand. We are going to do the best that we can. If we cannot connect the PowerPoint, it's okay. I can share it with you later. If it's not going to let me do it, I'll try one more thing. Let me know how you're doing, what you're feeling grateful for today. We'll take a minute and join hearts and minds, and then we will get into it. So excited to talk about embodiment with you all today. We use the word all of the time. Everyone's using it, and I'm happy about that because the more discussion of embodiment, the better. And sometimes it can feel very frustrating to want to feel like you're embodied, like you're trying to be embodied, and it doesn't feel like it's ever gonna work. That's how I felt. Actually, I felt like, what am I doing wrong? Why can't this work? Why I need to do to feel embodied? And it just felt like a never-ending cycle, and it felt like I was never gonna be able to do it. I don't want you to feel that way. I wish I'd had this conversation. Someone had it with me years ago so that I could figure out I wasn't doing anything wrong. It was simply the fact that it takes time to integrate all of the ways and all of the things that hold us back. And so let's do it. Take a moment wherever you are and simply, we're going to just join together and ground for a quick moment. You can get quiet wherever you are. You can take a breath. If it feels good to you, to close your eyes, you can. You don't have to. Allow yourself simply to notice your breath. Nothing about it has to change. And we're just going to notice how we're feeling in our bodies. We're simply going to notice what's coming up for you. The sensation is okay. However you're feeling is okay. And when we find that we can simply be with whatever we're feeling, we begin to increase our capacity to hold it. We begin to increase our capacity with it. And so for today, whatever you're being with is perfect. Whatever is coming up is perfect. If it feels like a lot and you simply would like to keep it safe until later when you have more time to be with it, you can imagine the thoughts, the list, the emotion going into a beautiful woven basket in your mind's eye where you can place anything to be held until you're ready to come back to it. Continue to stay grounded in your breath and just imagine your intention for today bubbling up, whatever you'd like to move through, whatever you'd like clarity on, even how you want to feel on the other side of our training today. Allow that truth to speak to you now. Even if there's silence, even if nothing comes up, stillness is sacred. Fill into that whatever came up for you. With that, we say, so be it, and so it is. You can begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes when it feels good for you. You might roll your neck. You might move, wiggle wherever you are, and open your eyes when you feel ready. We are talking today about embodiment, and I would love to know what embodiment means to you. I got on my personal page a little earlier. I'd love just to know what it means for you and how your process with it is going. You can drop that in the comments. I think we have a little bit of delay, which is fine. I'll wait for the comments to come over. We are talking today about the path forward, and I believe that the path forward is embodiment. We are going to recap quickly. Day 1 and 2, we talked about trauma-informed leadership on day 1, what it is, what it entails, how it's helpful to conceptualize it so that we can move through it. We talked about how we actually can become responsible for being trauma informed. We can learn to heal our own experience. We can increase awareness and consciousness for the good of oneself and for humanity. And when we do that, we get to better? I think I fixed it. Let me know if you can hear me. Yay. Perfect. Yay. And so for day 2, we talked about emotional mastery and psychological safety. That's a good one. They're both good. But if you haven't caught day 2, it's still going to be up. Diana, thank you. Jonna, thank you. And we can go over that more in day 2. We talked all about emotional mastery, how to really embody it, how to be with it in ways that are practical and tangible, and why it's so important to really commit psychological safety for yourself, for the people that you work with and that you serve, in the beautiful work that you're doing. It can be so important to really be committed to psychological safety, especially in the work that we're doing when we're thinking about transformational work, when we're thinking about how to actually support people and changing and growing. Making any kinds of shifts, it's so important that we are creating work, that we're creating programs, that we're creating coaching packages when we're talking about if you're a therapist or a teacher, any kind of professional where you work with people. It's so important to really understand psychological safety and how to really embody it, because so many times people are coming to us for support, sometimes for answers, sometimes for ways to really go deeper in their own understanding of themselves, how they can show up better in the world, how they can have a better understanding of how they work, what they need, right? We're going to go in, we're going to have a bonus session tomorrow about some of the differences between coaching and therapy and what we really should be um, working with in the scope of coaching and what we should not be working with in the scope of coaching, and how this program that we're going to talk about in a little bit, Safe Trauma Practice, really is going to support you in how to work with people who have a good grasp on themselves, their histories. They've been doing the work, they have been working on integration, and they're wanting support around a specific area, which is why they're coming to see you. In a coaching container. For those of you who are therapists on here and who will look into the program, it's going to really support you in how to create your coaching practice so that you're in the scope of coaching. And if you desire to keep your therapy practice, how to really make them separate. And if you are wanting to go only into coaching, right, which is what I am doing, we're going to navigate that for you and support you in what is ethical, supporting you in what your state is requiring, and really going to support everyone in understanding there is a scope and a lane in coaching, and how to support people in integration, in embodiment. And if they are in a more acute stage where they haven't quite reached any level of integration, they haven't quite reached any level of like understanding um, their triggers, their window of tolerance, how to remain in it, that's when we're going to want to refer them to a therapist who can help them in that aspect until they're ready to be able to do coaching work safely, where the focus is coaching, right, and not therapy. So we're going to go over all of that and figure that out. And for many coaches, it's like we have these amazing modalities and practices, and we're wanting to support people, we're wanting to help people, we're wanting to do our amazing work, right? And we struggle sometimes with like, what is trauma? How do I support them in a container that has a specific goal oriented purpose? What happens when symptoms come up? What happens when we're doing great work? All of a sudden they're triggered, all of a sudden stuff has come up. What do I do? We're going to go over all of that in the program. And for everyone who sticks it out for the rest of the week. Thursday and Friday, I have an amazing document for you. It's a session tracker and planner that would have been so helpful for me in the beginning. Um, you all will get it for free, and it's going to really help you. And we'll go over it on Friday. It's going to help you think about how to conceptualize your sessions, what to look for, what to focus more on, right? And a lot of this is going to be dependent on who you're working with and what capacity you're working with, but it's going to give you a framework. And we have many more frameworks in the program to really help you create the kind of containers and ways that you want to work with people, depending on what you're working with them on. It's going to support you in really learning how to conceptualize it, because in the very beginning of my own work, it felt like I had to figure everything out. Googling, figuring out how to manage the hour of time, how to figure out what to do when, how far to let someone go so that I could make sure they were closed up before the end of the session. Sessions were always going over. It was kind of a mess, right? And I would order these books to try to help me figure it out. And they were all speaking to the thing, but not showing me how. And if you're like me, I know some of you are, I'm a visual person. I need to see an example of something. I need to have some kind of like instruction on how to think about it. And then I can figure it out for myself. Donna says that sounds amazing. Anna says I need some direction. It is so true. And I think sometimes I thought myself, I'm just supposed to know. And the same thing with coaching. When I began to coach people, I was like, always going over. I still go over, but it's different now. Um, I was like, okay, how much do we put into one session? I wanted to give like massive value, but I also didn't want to overwhelm someone's nervous system. And so we're going to go deeper into the actual like nuts and bolts, the actual practice in this cohort. We're going to break down different protocols that's going to support you in your sessions and what you're doing with clients, and creating packages for those of you who want to work one-on-one or who are ready for groups. We're going to go over how to really structure it, because I think that so many times hi Carolyn, what holds us back is the fear of like, am I doing it wrong? What if I do it wrong? I don't want to mess anyone up. I don't want to hurt someone more, right? These are all things that hold us back when we are creating our beautiful that work will go in. Some of us know what we're here to do, right? We know what we're here to do. And the challenge can be putting it in a model that is safe for you, that's supportive for people that you're working with, that can support you financially, if that's your desire. If your desire is more of like a nonprofit or a ministry, or like some type of like passion project that you're wanting to do, same thing. Having the proper containers for it is really giving the energy a place to go. So we're going to go deeper into that. And so for today, when we think about the path forward, it's definitely embodiment. Let me know how you think about embodiment, what it means for you. For so long, I think I thought embodiment was like super fancy. I didn't really understand it until I began some years ago to go deeper in my understanding, in my learning around what actually is somatic practice, right? And so when I began my own deeper healing journey 6 or 7 years ago now, I realized when I had done so much like mindset work. I love mindset work. Um, Carolyn, there will be a replay. I love you so much. Have a safe flight. Hope you're going someplace fun. Can't wait to hear all about it. I didn't really understand what it meant to return to my body. I was like, hi Elena, everyone's talking about somatic practice, getting back into your body. embody, embody, embody. I'm like, what does that even mean? I was so like taken back by it, right? I was in the depths of my own healing journey. And for so many of us who are trauma survivors, we can feel safer in our heads. And that was the truth for me. I felt so much safer in my mind, in my thoughts, right? Kind of more in this masculine energy of like doing, doing, doing. I could do anything, I could figure anything out, and I could make anything work. And I took that approach in my healing process, and it did serve me well in a lot of ways. It got me through school, it got me through so many like challenging circumstances. It even helped to a certain extent in my personal life. But when I wanted more, when I wanted deeper relationships, when I wanted more intimacy, when I wanted to really help people learn to heal, right? And return to wholeness and not need me forever, right? Because I love working with people. I love supporting people. I love helping people to learn and grow and really embody um, the framework of how to be the best version of themselves, to heal their trauma and move forward. I would do it for free, like it's my jam. I love it. I'm sure I'll do it forever, right? And I realized I wanted people to be able to come with me, come to see me, right? Because they wanted to see me and they wanted to share all of the amazing things that were happening in their life. I didn't want them to be in therapy with me for 20 years, right? Unless we were talking about all of the amazing things they were doing and how they were up leveling in their life. And I realized that was more coaching. And so what I really wanted to create for people was a way to really create integration in their life, right? Because I am someone, like I shared, I think yesterday or something, when I began to do my own deeper healing process, I realized I don't want to be talking about this shit for 20 years, right? I don't, and I'm not. And so, how do I get through this in a more succinct way? How do I get through this? Because I can't take a 5 year sabbatical to heal my stuff, right? I have a kid, I have things to do, I have a life to live. And so I wanted this like expedited healing process. And a part of me was naive. And also, a part of me was very focused in the way that I was thinking about I want to move through this, but I don't want to spend forever on things that I can't control. I want to put my time and my energy in what I can control. And so, in that, I began to realize we can only get so far. And many of you already know this, right? This is years ago and I didn't know it. We can only get so far in our mind. And to be honest, we can only get so far only in our body. The two really have to join again. They have to come back together. And that bridge between the two really has to be repaired and realigned. And so much of that is somatic embodiment. And so when we think about, okay, if that's what it is, what gets in the way of us feeling embodied? What gets in the way of us becoming the result, becoming healed, becoming whole, becoming confident, becoming empowered, becoming the business owners and the CEOs and the kind of empowered coaches that has the business, the income, the life, the family, the luxury, like whatever it is that you deeply desire, what stands in the way of us having that, right? And not being like on the other side of it, not quite having it in our grasp. So many things around trauma is what is holding us back with that, right? And so, so often it's not, I think, spoken to um, in that succinct way. I think it needs to be. And we're going to talk about it today a bit. And so, what holds us back? The voices of the past, the voice that says, you can't do that. If you do that, it's not going to work out well. If we do that, we're going to get in trouble. If we do that, we're going to be ostracized, right? These kinds of programs are in our society, they're in our world. Many of us have grown up in fear, and it wasn't always intentional. It's just what was present. And so unlearning these limitations is not for the faint of heart, but it can be done, and it can be done with ease and with grace. And we're going to move through that a bit today. The survival self is also what can prevent us from becoming more embodied. We're going to go deep into that in this round of the cohort, right? We have our wounded self, and we talk about that a lot, I think, in the personal development industry. The survival self, I think all people have this version of themselves who's stuck in survival. That's all they really know, and even though we're growing and we're evolving and we're healing and we're returning to wholeness, right? And for many of us, we have um, a therapist, we may even have a coach as well. We're doing lots of good things. We have good habits, right? We have the oils, we're eating healthy food, we're drinking the kale juice, right? We have all of our apps and our to do list, and we still feel like a shit show, right? And we still feel like we're not moving forward towards our goal. There's a reason for that. The survival self part of us has more control over our nervous system than they need to have, than they are even capable of having. And we have to um, step back into that adult role that gets taken out of context when trauma happens when we're kids. These different parts of our psyche develop to help protect us. And we're going to go over all of this in the program. How to really work with these parts to bring them validation, to bring them acknowledgement, to really bring them immense gratitude for their service and all that they have supported us with. And then helping them to gently ease back into being a child and completing that stage of development, but not doing that in the driver's seat of our life. I always say to myself and to people in my world, we can love our kids so much, our pets so much, right? And no matter how much we love them, if it's not safe for our underage kids, or nieces or nephews or grandchildren or godchildren to drive your car, no matter how much you love them, it's not safe for them or someone else, or for them or for anyone else, for them to be driving if they're not ready, old enough, have learned how to drive. When these younger parts are in the driver's seat of our life, they're making decisions, they're making calls that they don't have the bandwidth to make, they don't have the emotional capacity to make, and they may have been making them, right? Which oftentimes is what can lead us to different addictions, different like obsessions, different ways of coping, so that we don't have to deal with the pain or the trauma or the stuff that's really causing us grief and strife and upset. These parts try to find ways to help us cope. And oftentimes they can be unhealthy ways. And it's not that they want um, anything bad for us, they feel like they're helping. And so what's happening is truly a misunderstanding. And when we're able to see that, and when we're able to make peace with them and work with them, acknowledging that we're on the same team, right? We all want what's best for the human. And when that is solidified, you're able to move through all of the resistance, all of the misunderstandings with more ease and with more grace. So, practical examples: if you're stuck and blocked around money, if you're stuck and blocked around relationships, when we're stuck and triggered in our parenting journey, when we say we want a certain goal and we know what to do to get it and we still can't do it, right? That's a part that's stuck with one foot on the brake and one foot on the gas at the same time. And we see um, the symptoms of that often in our physical health, in our emotional health, right? When we are stress eating, when our adrenals are stressed, right? When we keep getting sick, when we are having this like just mysterious symptoms, can't figure it out, don't know what's going on, seeing all the people, the doctors, the natural doctors, all these things, we still can't move through it. It's usually, and I certainly have these in my own life. I share about that on social, right? These are nervous system um, dynamics that are being impacted, right, by parts of our psyche. And it can be very challenging sometimes to understand how much and how intrinsic our mind and body and spirit all work together like a trifecta. Other ways that other things that stand in the way of really feeling embodied, really embracing a more embodied leadership is also the same conversation around the fragmented self. The fragmented self and the survival self are often like twins. They often work together. The fragmented self is just a higher level view of what I was just talking about with the different parts that we have: the scared part, the procrastinator part, the self sabotage part, the part that's always trying to hold us back and that's always in conflict with the one that is ambitious and the one that has these big goals and the one that wants more, right? These two parts, the survival self and the fragmented self, are usually in conflict with one another and with our whole self, right? Our adult self, because everyone internally inside of us wants control. When I talk about parts, if this is new for you, if it's the first time you're hearing about it, it's not the same thing as what we um, heard about like in the 90s and 2000s, even a bit in the 80s, right? The multiple personality disorder. Sybil, I think, was the phenomenon that was really talked about. It's not that. In many ways, the creator of internal family systems, Richard Schwartz, really talks about this type of therapy that can be applied to anyone and everyone. And it's so helpful in coaching because it supports you in understanding that we all have parts. We all have parts of ourselves that are in conflict with the other. And when it comes to meeting our goals, our desires, and moving forward, if you know what you want, if you know what to do to get what you want, and you still don't have it, there's a part within you that's in conflict. There's an internal conflict going on. And often it's about competing needs. The part that has its foot on the brake is in conflict with the part that has its foot on the gas. And oftentimes they want to land in the same place. They're fighting over control and how to best get you there. And that's what we're going to work through, the different frameworks and tools to help you move through it for yourself and for the folks that you work with. Because the reason why people invest in so much, I think, unnecessary stuff, programs, coaching, even therapists, and they feel like that didn't work. I hate therapy, it doesn't work. That's not true. Oftentimes we have a poor experience, right? And we have a poor experience like with food, but we don't stop eating, right? We just don't go back to that place anymore. So when we think about these poor experiences, it's often because professionals are treating the symptom and not the root of the problem. If we only treat the symptom, it will work for a while. And sometimes we just need relief from the symptom in order to have the capacity to deal with the root issue, right? So we're going to really work through a framework that I have created called um, Origin Point therapy. And when we really can trace back to an origin point using the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious mind, when we're able, and it's just a protocol, it's just questions, it's just creating safety, it's just bringing in internal resources to the person so they can go within themselves to trace back to where their answers are. When we're able to do that, we're able to unravel that core misunderstanding that leads to our core wounds, abandonment, rejection, betrayal, right? um, all of these beliefs that were founded in trauma can be unraveled. It does take time, but it also takes the proper tools and practices that are trauma informed and that are rooted in psychological safety. And so I'm excited about this being part of the cohort this session. One of the things that hold us back from really being embodied also is fear. It's fear of everything. It can be of success, it can be of failure. All of that plays such a huge role in our nervous system that is dysregulated. So much of dysregulation comes from a nervous system that's dysregulated, and it's producing fear, it's producing all of these emotions that we're having a hard time integrating or moving through. Emotions bad ironically today. Emotion bad, we just have to learn how to um, be with it, how to make peace with it, how to move through it, how to transmit. And there's beautiful ways to do that, right? Many of you already do them, moving our body, um, bringing in presence, bringing in grounding, bringing in a more felt sense in our experience. So that somatic practice, right? There's lots of ways to do this, and it can be important to really nourish it and center it around trauma informed care within whatever practice or modality that we're using. That's what brings safety into the nervous system, which calibrates the growth so that you don't have these huge meltdowns and things falling apart when you grow because your nervous system is becoming more used to expansion and growth as just being a part of your life. It doesn't feel as threatened by change when we do it in a way that's supportive to one's nervous system. Post traumatic stress is another huge reason why we struggle with embodiment so much. I know this was true for me. I know it's true for many of you in my world who are doing this work, who are wanting to do this work. So much of our own traumatic stress impacts our ability to show up. It impacts our ability to be consistent. It impacts our ability to really ground into what we know we want to be doing, what we're focused on. It's a trauma response. And when we're able to meet it with grace and with love and with effective strategy, we're able to move through it so much more easily without so much drama, right? The other things that really impact embodiment are all of the challenges in our world. Oppression and racism and sexism and classism and all of these fear-based approaches to life that really impact people. It impacts their nervous system, it impacts their ability to feel safe, it impacts their ability to go after what they want, to feel like they deserve it, right? All of these things are working against someone feeling embodied. And there are ways um, to address it. I believe all of them are going to require a trauma informed approach because all of these isms are rooted in trauma. And so when we think about unmet needs, is also something that inhibits embodiment because when we don't feel like our basic needs are being met, it's hard to really embody the work, the truth of who we are. It can be done, but it's hard. It's so hard. And as people, we only have so much bandwidth in each day and each season of our life. And when we are really working out of depletion, it can just trigger and exacerbate that traumatic stress. And one of the biggest ways that we struggle with embodiment is having unintegrated trauma. Excuse me. How do we know if it's unintegrated? We know because we're still having so many issues with it. We know when we're unable to really move into um, having more control over our nervous system, right? We have our physical body, it's a nervous system, our guts, a nervous system, our brains, a nervous system, right? When we are really, hi Deanne, when we're having trouble bringing in integration into our nervous systems, we're going to have more dysregulation and it's going to come out through all these symptoms that we don't like. Brain fog, fatigue, self sabotage, not being able to stick to a plan. There could be neurodiversity issues that come up. And some of these things need treatment. Some of these things need medical professionals to support you with it. And that is all very true. And we have to create ways in our life to be with ourselves in a more holistic way. And I believe the answer to that really is embracing a trauma informed framework for our life and for our business, for the work that we're doing. Because when we embody trauma informed as a lifestyle, it gets infused in everything that we do. And I think that that's really what promotes healing, right? So when we talk about the pathway forward, I believe that pathway is really reclamation. It's really the process of reclaiming one's truth, one's inherent birthright of worth and value, and our true power, our goodness, our knowing, right? Our intuition, our spiritual gifts, and our purpose. Hi, Monique. When we embrace this act of reclamation, it really is going against beliefs and systems like patriarchy, right? Like systems that are rooted in oppression and exploitation. When we ground back into our own truth, when we reclaim these parts of ourselves that know the way forward for us, it can support us so much on the path of embodiment, the path of really integrating our traumas. Life is made up of this beautiful tapestry of things. And some of those chapters, some of those periods were dark. They were so challenging. They threatened to break us, right? And that energy doesn't just go away, even if we suppress it, even if we lock it away in a vault in our mind, in our spirit, the energy itself is still within us and on some extent still creating. And so the best way to really create deep integration is to begin to deal with some of that energy in safe ways and working through it and releasing it from our mind, our body, our spirit back to the earth so that it can be transmuted. We're not meant to hold these past experiences, especially the traumatic ones, but that is what happens often. We don't know what else to do with it but to hold it. And part of embracing trauma informed care as a framework and as a lifestyle is saying, okay, what to what level is trauma playing a role in this? How can I shift my relationship with it? How can I move through it? How can I release what's ready and wanting to be released? How can I begin to set an energetic minimum, an actual boundary in my life around my emotions, I'm tolerating, around I'm showing up, around what I stand for, right? So that not just any and everything can come into my experience. Embodied leadership is really embracing our own power and our own ability to create what we're wanting and to release whatever's not serving us in ways that are psychologically safe, right? And that really um, depend on emotional mastery. Our emotions are not going away. I used to tell people all the time in my therapy practice, we can hate our emotions, that's fine, but they're not going away. And so at some point, we have to learn to deal with them, to learn how to interact with them, right? And become an ally with them. Hi, Pauline, I'm glad you're here. When we think about reclaiming our own embodiment, really reclaiming our path forward, it's rooted in returning to our inherent worth. Everyone talks about the struggle with worth. I've certainly dealt with it for decades. And I think that we've made it more complicated than it needs to be. I certainly did. For a long time, I really didn't even understand the true um, definition of worth. It was more of like a feeling that I was trying to chase, and that was part of the problem. I know for many of you, worth is something that many of us have worked on for a while. I'd love to hear, how you feel about worth. How would you define it, and how was your journey with embodying it going? How are you feeling about it? What's working for you, and what's not? I believe that our worth is simply defined as our own intrinsic, inherent value. And when that's the case, it's not something that we need to chase. It's not something that we need to um, feel like is outside of us because it's not, right? We were born with it. And nothing that happens in our entire life, no matter how much trauma, no matter how much adversity, no matter how much just crap that's thrown our way, it does not and it cannot um, take away from or diminish our worth. What happens is we can feel unworthy and we can feel like whatever's happened has destroyed our sense of worth. And feelings are not always facts, but when we feel like we are not worthy, we make decisions and we show up in a way that supports that. The same way that when we do feel worthy, when we do feel like we matter and that we're valuable, what we say matters, the work that we share in the world matters, the work that we are here to support other people. When we believe that it matters because we matter, we show up differently. We show up differently, we charge differently, we accept things in a different way. We stop accepting crap, right? That's not good for us. And this is in any area of life. And so reclaiming our own inherent worth is a huge piece of embodiment. It's a huge piece of the path forward. It's a huge piece of trauma informed care because so many people are doing amazing work and helping people on their journey of transformation. But if that, Jonna, of course, thank you. If that work does not hit on and ground into inherent worth, we're actually doing people a disservice because it's not something that we have to chase. Hi, Luana. I'm so glad you're here. Morgan's is key to building a life you love. It is key. It's also key It's also key understanding that a lot of what we're searching for is worth. It's already within us. It's not outside of us. There's nothing that we have to get to feel worthy. It's a state that we have to tap into. And sometimes that means removing all of like the clutter and debris that's on top of it off, right? So that we can tune back in to that innate worthiness that we're born with and that nothing destroys and that nothing minimizes. Whatever we're feeling unworthy around is a misunderstanding that can be cleared up through emotional work, through unconscious work, through somatic work, right? Really releasing these misunderstandings in our system that are supporting us in feeling unworthy because that's a feeling and it's not true. When we think about value, this other element of reclaiming, right? Our worth, um, our embodiment, it's understanding that this is how we regard something that holds value, that is deserving of whatever it's asking for. So when we put a value on a fancy car, right? Um, Mercedes or a Bentley, right? Like a Maserati, these are often cars that don't go on sale, right? They cost what they cost, and you can buy it or you can't. And the reality is, so much of that is a mindset, and a foundational truth that we're being asked to accept about ourselves. We are worthy no matter what. We have value no matter what. And the real challenge becomes sometimes we devalue ourself, our own work, our own contribution, right? For women, this is a big one because there's so much invisible labor, right, out here when we're in our home, when we're in our communities, even in the workplace, right? I talk to so many people in different projects that I'm involved in, and in my own life, right, around people who are doing multiple jobs in one position. They're being paid one salary, yet they're doing 3 or 4 different jobs, and it's exploitation, right? And some of that is just challenges that we're having in our society. It's how our society was built in exploitation. And the reality is, I think that there's a generation being called to shift that. It's being called to say, you know what, you can take your own gifts, your own talents, your own zoneness and create something for yourself. And it might not be that you want to do it as a business. It might be nonprofit, though. Um, Nicole Walters is infamous for saying, you don't even have to have a nonprofit. You can have a for profit and choose to give 99% of the profit away, right? There's a way to really do what you want to do, what's on your heart to do in a way that's supportive for you, and that really embodies what you stand for, your values, what's important to you, and the kind of legacy that you want to leave. We're not going to live forever. We talked about that on day one of the masterclass. We talked about the beautiful um, late night bird who really um, stayed true to the path of fighting to get her music out into the world and her message that we can't wait until life is perfect to be happy or to try or to go after the thing that we're wanting, right? And so when we think about value, we're talking about accepting that what we do matters, what we want matters, our ability to take care of ourselves emotionally, spiritually, mentally, financially, it matters. And we can take leadership and stewardship and dominion over these areas of our life and literally create and manifest what we are wanting through sacred discipline, right? Through grace, through embodiment, through knowing that we deserve what we desire. We deserve what we're asking for. And sometimes the only work that's needed to be done is getting clear on what we want, asking for what we want, and then getting busy becoming the energetic match for the thing that we desire, deserve, and have access to. It's possible. When we think about that, we're really talking about embracing our highest truth. Desire has so much to do with our highest truth. It's really getting clear on what we want and knowing that we deserve it, whatever it is that you want. Sometimes the only limitation that we put on ourselves are the ones we put on ourselves. And sometimes it's done so innocently, right? Sometimes it's because society has said it's important not to want too much. It's important not to be greedy. It's important, not to ask for seconds or thirds. It's important to leave something for everybody else. Have the mindset, these lack mindsets. And I believe that they're often just principalities that are here to impact what we're doing a lot of times in negative ways. And so when we're able to take leadership over what we want, what we desire, and tap into the fact that we deserve it because we desire it, and it doesn't need to be more complicated than that. When we're able to do that, we really begin to embrace this path of embodiment, and we really begin to think about what it means to integrate this masculine and feminine energy, sometimes called yin and yang energy, right? It isn't about gender, it isn't about any of that. It's simply that we all have these two different energies within us, and they are meant to complement each other. But sometimes what happens is that the balance or the harmony amongst the two gets off track because of trauma, because of abuse, sometimes of really significant misunderstandings, sometimes because of lack of knowledge, sometimes because we simply don't know what we don't know. And so I think many of us tend to feel safer in one of these energies over the other. So for many trauma survivors, we tend to feel safer in a more masculine energy, and what we can find, it was certainly my experience, is that when I wanted to up-level my life, when I wanted to have a more grounded, authentic, present experience, it was going to require me moving into a more feminine energy, which led me to understanding that integration of the two is what's needed. We need them both. And when we're able to integrate them, we are able to really um, embody, right, our knowing, our essence of who we are, not just our ego, not just our small self, but our true divine essence. And so, some of the characteristics that are kind of rooted in a masculine energy, which again is needed, it's necessary, and it's important, and the balance of it is as well. That's the doing energy. The feminine energy is more um, of a being energy. And when we think about doing and being, we often think about one or the other. We can often get stuck in one or the other. When what's important is like a little dance of doing and being. So it might sound something like be do, right? It's going back and forth between doing and being and making room for both of them. We can get stuck in the doing and create burnout and create a life without meaning or fulfillment, right? We can also get stuck in the being where we're being all over the place. And it's so easy for me to be because I had to really ground into that energy to do my deeper healing work from past trauma. And what I realized was a river is like being. It's got such flow and epicness, right? It's so um, peaceful and calming, and it needs a river bank in order to create the structure for it to be able to flow. So being needs the structure of doing so that it can maintain integrity and its flow, but also have the structures needed to create the flow. We're going to go deeper in how to do that and how to integrate it more easily in the program. Luana says worthiness is the key to building a life you love. Yes. She also says I was very masculine energy in leading and thought any vulnerability was weakness. You are not by yourself, Luana. So many of us think that. It's interesting you think that because that you say that because it's coming up, and we're going to cover it in the program. Really looking at our masculine wounds and our feminine wounds, and oftentimes this leads to the wounding that we have around our parental caregivers, right? So it might be a mom wound, it might be a dad wound, and this is it doesn't matter if they raised you or not. Doesn't matter if you grew up with family members or um, in like a group home, like whoever your caregivers were, like foster care, whoever your caregivers were, gave off certain energies and they gave off certain beliefs. And as children, we talked about earlier in the Masterclass series, or maybe it's the 30 day on my page there, we talked about how We develop beliefs from birth to age 8 for sure. Many people think it's birth to age 12. We develop beliefs that we feel like are fact. We feel like this is just the way the world is. That's great. Positive messages, positive if you have a healthy environment, if you have all these things working in your favor, that's great. Many of us, though, did not have all of these things working in our favor. And because of that, we developed unhelpful and unhealthy beliefs. One of those beliefs, Luana, is that masculine energy is the energy that is strong, that is needed, that is necessary. And we often find that we can think, like, the faulty belief can be feminine energy is weakness. That is always a telltale sign that there's misunderstanding around the two energies. Not misunderstanding of the energies, misunderstanding around what they represent. This often leads back to childhood, and it isn't to blame anyone. It isn't to blame our parents or our caregivers. It isn't to blame anyone who was doing the best they could at the time, or might not have even had the capacity to be what we needed. Children take so much capacity. And we're going to go over this in the program, like around forgiveness and what it means, what it doesn't mean, how to really hold space for yourself and someone else in that process, and really honoring their choice, um, and their where they are in that journey. Because forgiveness can take time. Even being willing to forgive can take time, and it's perfectly acceptable for those who are not willing to forgive. Um, and we're going to go deeper into that because it can be a bit controversial, but it doesn't need to be. And so when we think about finding safety in the two energies, what's needed is integration of the two, making peace with the masculine, that it is an energy that we most definitely need, that serves its purpose, but also making peace with the feminine, knowing that it's not weakness. It can be our greatest strength in some ways, even more so than our masculine energy, if we learn how to embrace empowered feminine energy and move out of this disempowered feminine energy. And that's where one of the perceived weakness can come in. Many of us had experience with people who were in a disempowered feminine energy or disempowered masculine energy, right? And harm was caused. When harm was caused, we developed faulty beliefs around it. So it's a honest misunderstanding that so many of us have made. When we think about the more masculine energy, we're thinking about producing, achieving, thinking, logical, linear. There's definitely like this heaven kind of vibe. There's this sun, task oriented, consumption, fight or flight is more of a masculine energy, as well as competition, as well as like talking. Intellect is more of a masculine energy, right? Not that it has to be one or the other, it just tends to lean more towards that energy. Feminine energy has more to do with being, right? That do, be, do. It's the doing and the being. There's the receiving. There's the more passive and allowing, passive aggressive, but more allowing. There's more feeling with the feminine energy, more emotion. Things are more cyclical, so they're more in a circle versus linear with masculine. It's very much earth energy and moon energy. It's relationship oriented more so than just task oriented. Both are needed, but you see the differences there can be important. It's more about creation, it's more about tending and befriending, tending our emotion, tending our thoughts, tending our values. It's more about tending and being with versus, um, fighting or flighting or being in that action mode. It's more about like a coolness where there is a heat that comes with masculine energy. We're also thinking about cooperating, listening, and being in tune with our intuition. And these principles combined, integrated goes into embodied leadership. It is a pathway to wholeness, and we will begin to carve out the elements and the values that you want to focus on and ground into for your embodied leadership. We're going to deep dive into that in the program, in the beginning half of the program, where it's all about you moving through your blocks, getting clear on where you are going and the things that have historically held you back in the past. We're going to be working through those. And so when we think about the path forward, it's really some principles, it's really some pillars of the work that I do, and what we're going to go over in the program that I'm going to teach you how to really embody and accept and embrace for yourself and then be able to share that with your communities. We're thinking about embodied healing, healing from the inside out. So often we are in a more masculine energy when we are thinking about how to make it better, how to throw money at it, how to fix it right, how to make this a non issue is a more masculine energy. When we think about embodied healing, we're really thinking about healing from the inside out, embracing those parts of ourselves that have been hidden, buried, suppressed, not given a voice. When we're able to embrace giving these parts of ourselves a voice, expression, we're able to create deeper embodiment and faster. Not that we're in a rush because we're not, but I understand that sometimes it's like I want to be there already. The path to being there already is slowing down and tending and befriending. We're also going to look at our shadow work. We're going to look at the things that hold us back. We're going to look at the beliefs that we have labeled as one way or the other. Like Luana said, many of us have vulnerability edges because we view it as a weakness when it's not. It can be one of our greatest strengths. And we can sometimes even view masculine energy as negative or toxic when it doesn't need to be. Sometimes it is, but it doesn't have to be. And so Luana says empowered rather than empowered energies. Yeah, I love that too. It's important. How we think about it, the language that we use, so important. We're also going to really ground into somatic embodiment, returning to one's own body and making peace with sensation, really being able to own one's own experience. So often we're trying to help people, clients, family members, like whoever it is, with things, trying to help them go deeper on things that we haven't dealt with, that we haven't gone deeper on. And you don't have to be 1,000 steps ahead of your ideal client, of your ideal student, right? The folks that you want to support. You don't have to be 10,000 miles ahead of them, but we do need to be in integrity and be sure that we're doing our own work so that we can hold people in good conscience and good integrity, knowing that we can support them in going into their own darkness, their own shadow, right? Their own unintegrated um, states because we've done it, we've gone through it, we've come out of it, and we're able to guide them through, right? I don't want like a coach if my goal is to hike Everest, right? Or maybe a one smaller than Everest, right? If that's your goal is to hike this historically, tall mountain, you don't want a trainer who's never done it, right? Like I really want someone who's done it, who I know they're giving me their wisdom, their expertise, their experience because they've done it. And so when we really think about that somatic work, embodiment work, we want to make sure that we are um, grounding in on trauma informed care, psychological safety, and really understanding that the body and the nervous system needs time to calibrate. So some of the modalities and things that we do can be helpful. Um, EFT, matrix work, breath work, embodiment work, yoga, even. All of these things are helpful. Even therapeutic intervention, right? For those of you who are therapists who are going to be doing this program with both the lens of therapist and coach, there are certainly therapy um, protocols and excuse me, practices that are not trauma informed when they should be. And people are re traumatized because they were not prepared for what they were going into. And I feel that's on the professional to help prepare someone and ensure psychological safety, even when that means working with someone to know if they're ready for this, if their system's ready for this, if they need more resourcing, if they need more of those foundational skills to be created together, right? Collaboratively, which is a principle of trauma informed care, collaboration. When we're able to work with them to create that solid foundation to do the work on, then we're able to create substantial change that's lasting. So having that somatic embodiment, being able to return to your own body, making peace with your sensation, and really being able to own your own internal experience is the work that is somatic embodiment. And for many of us, we can do that work to an extent with ourselves, but we're challenged in doing it with other people. There are practices and frameworks to help you do it. We're going to go over it in the program. One of the important aspects to it is to really get clear on your window of tolerance, helping your clients to learn and formulate their own knowing and felt sensation of their window of tolerance so that when you begin to do deeper work, you know when you're out of your window, when they're out of their window, how to bring someone back into safety, into grounded awareness, back into their body in the present moment, getting them out of dissociation and deciding from there how best to move forward. Do they need more acute support, which is a trained therapist to support them in widening their window of tolerance so that they can do deeper work. It's possible to have a therapist and a coach at the same time. It's possible to have an ongoing trauma support person that helps you with this specific experience, right? That you're integrating and have someone that's helping you on a certain goal that's not based in trauma. And so we'll talk about that and how to really have those conversations in the program as well. Diana says, even with all these years I've been a therapist and doing my own work, I didn't think I'd really grounded myself enough, which is why I have all of the health issues. Yes, and what you're talking about, Diana, I see you and I hear you. There's grounding, yes, there's also nervous system regulation. And the challenge is sometimes we do as much as we can to ground. We are as grounded as we can be in the moment. And then when new stuff comes up and when we expand more, there's a deeper need for more nervous system regulation. And you can tell when that's the case, like you said, when there's health issues, when there's this overall feeling of not being grounded, despite all of the grounding practices you do. That's where I got to just, not that long ago, maybe like a month ago. I was having all of these symptoms, all of these like COVID symptoms, all of these things. And I was like, I take enough supplements and vitamins and potions, right? And things to like cure the world. How can I possibly still feel sick? And I began to go deeper and reach out for support and find that there can be things that are off kilter in the nervous system. There can be genetic things that require our attention that's going to impact how we feel. But like I said earlier, if we're only treating the symptom and not the origin point, the symptoms are gonna be decreased over time, but they're not gonna go away. If we clean out the fridge, right? We wipe it all down, we spray it, it's all good, it's sparkling clean. That's perfect, it's great. But if we don't take the expired stinky food out of the fridge, even if we clean the fridge, it's still gonna smell. The same is true with our nervous system integration. We can do all of the fancy modalities in the world, but if we don't bring regulation into our actual system, the fancy modalities are going to really have no place to go. They're not going to be able to embed and integrate in our system, which is what decreases the symptoms, the challenges, the out of balance sensations that we feel that can come through health issues. So, really good point. We're also going to need to embody trauma informed care as a lifestyle, as a daily practice. And it can be done more um, easily than we think when we get around, when we get to doing the business of practicing it every day in the different aspects of our life and our work. And so I have so enjoyed having this conversation with you around embodiment as being the path forward. And often, of course, we can't get through all the principles in one conversation. That's why we have the program, Safe Trauma Practice. I'm so happy um, to be able to share it with you, to be able to invite you to complete your applications, um, to join the program. And if you're accepted, of course, and we'll get back to you no matter what. If you're accepted, or if we feel like maybe now isn't the best time, there might be some steps for you to take before you take on a program like this. Um, when we think about a comprehensive program, we're talking about safe trauma practice because it is a comprehensive framework um, for trauma informed and psychologically safe practices for coaches, mental health and wellness professionals, facilitators, leadership professionals, and also people who simply want to go deeper on their healing journey. Luana, thank you. It was for me too. I could talk about this all day, and we go so much deeper into it in the program because embodiment doesn't have to be this like whimsical thing that we feel like is out of reach for us. It's not. It's an internal process. And with the tools and practices, with the ways to think about it, those paradigms and frameworks, it becomes like breathing. It becomes this natural thing that you do. It's just a part of who you are. And then you're able to teach that by example because you're living it. And so in the program, we really support people in going deeper on clearing their own blocks of learning how to implement the trauma informed framework in practical ways. It is a framework rooted, talked about on day one and two around trauma informed practice and trauma informed leadership, really grounding into those tenets in your own life and how to create them in programs, in your marketing, in your initiatives, right? In the ways that you communicate with people and how you show up for clients and how you support them with what they need. It's a real comprehensive framework that has different tenets to it. It has 10 paradigms. Go deep within it, within the program. We're also going to help you to integrate for yourself moving through the blocks that hold you back from embodiment so that you can support your clients in doing the same. Like I said, and I will be preaching it forever, we cannot take people where we haven't gone. You can't tell how to navigate Disney if you've never gone. You might want to be able to help me, but if you haven't gone there, it's hard for you to support someone else in an experience that you haven't been on. Same for healing, same for emotional mastery and regulation. Now, there's no such thing as perfection, and there's no such thing as knowing it all, having it all, and you don't have to support people. But we do need to be in integrity and say, I can support you in going through your challenges, your adversity, overcoming the blocks to your goal because I have worked through the same thing. I've done the same work. I know how painful it can be, and I'm here to support you moving through it. We can say it in good conscience when it's the truth. And so when we're able to transform our own blocks, deepen our own coaching practice, here's the thing. You can take 5,000 coaching certifications. You can take 5,000 different coaching programs. If you still don't feel confident to put it in practice and to do the things you've learned to do, it's kind of a waste, right? And so even if you got a lot out of the program, if you're unable to feel confident to do the thing, to show the thing, to share the thing, to sell the thing, you're still stuck. Here's the secret sauce though. Confidence is a skill set, and a skill set can be learned. For years, I was like hoping and praying and standing on my head to try and become confident. I had no idea that it was a skill set. Any skill set can be learned. Empathy is a skill set. In many ways, anything that we want to embody, any value, can be learned through a skill. If we're able to moments of confidence, you're able to do what it takes to be confident, which has to do with aligned action. It has to do with deeper awareness. It has to do with accepting where we are and then deciding how to move forward. It's curiosity is a big part of confidence. It's about embracing your own worth and value, right? All of those things go into it. When you're able to work the formula, right? The confidence formula, when you're able to work that, you're able to embody confidence in whatever you're wanting to do because confidence is what gets us there. And like I said, for so long, we have well meaning people um, that's wanting us, and I think they think it. That's part of the thing. They're wanting us to think that if we do this program, if we get this read this book, right? Do this next step, then we'll become confident. Confidence is an inside job, but here's the other side to that token, the other side of that coin. It's an inside job, but it's also learnable. We just have to learn how to be confident. That's one of the biggest pieces that have has dropped in for me this year. There's no need to like chase um the shiny object, and there's no need to reinvent the wheel. If confidence is a skill set, I thought I'm going to figure out the skill set and teach it. And that's what I've done. That's what I'm happy to share with you all because it doesn't have to be this mysterious thing. It's not, doesn't need to be. When we are able to move through what holds us back, then we're able to claim our sacred soul work. I believe that we're each here to do a certain work in the earth, whatever it is. For some of us, it will be our paid right livelihoods. For other people, it might be more of a passion, it might be a hobby, it might be something that you're meant to share with the world on some level, and more will be revealed as you go. But what I know for sure is that if you're alive, you have a purpose. I believe that. You might not know what the purpose is, and that's okay. You can ask your higher power, you can ask the divine to reveal that to you. Most of you who are in my world, who are doing their own work around healing trauma, around becoming empowered and embodied, about really learning how to live wholeheartedly from a heart centered place, right? You are committed to this work for yourself and for those that you support. And I'm committed to supporting you with getting that work out into the world. What holds you back um, is you and the misunderstandings. It's misunderstandings that we have accepted as truth because that's the best we knew how to do at the time. When we know better, we can do better. When we know it's a misunderstanding, that trauma created or beliefs that we created based on what we were seeing or how we were feeling. If that's how it got created, it can be unraveled, right? It can be, for lack of a better word, uncreated, right? You can shift it. There's a flip side to it. And if we have the power to create misunderstandings in our own psyche, we have the power to unravel them, um, and to create on purpose the beliefs, and patterns that we're wanting to embody. And there's tools to really support you with that. And so we're going to go over that in the program so that you have tangible tools, practical tools for yourself to use forever and ever on whatever blocks come up in your life, tools and practices to use with your clients that you can embody as your own, that you can really take them through and support them in getting the result that they want. So many of us are so um, passionate about people being free from emotional bondage, from mental bondage, from pain. We want to support them in getting their result, and we're not sure how. This program helps you with the how. And so applications are open. I'm excited for us to review them. I review each and every one of them. I am excited to extend those of you who are ready an invitation to the program. Tomorrow, we're going to go more into the differences around coaching and therapy, why both are needed and why both are important, and how to really focus your coaching work in a way that is trauma informed, but that is also ethical, and you can really know how to refer people out who need more of a therapeutic approach, maybe before they begin working with you in this higher capacity. Coaching is very much for highly functional people, for folks who are aware of any challenges that they have, and it's well managed, right? And so when we think about a trauma informed approach, it's really owning our leadership to say, this is what this program is. This is what I can support you with in this container. If you're needing something different than that, let's chat and see how we can brainstorm coming up with a safe alternative for you, right? All of that is part of the trauma informed framework that we will go over. And so I am so excited about sending you an invitation to apply for the program. We will drop the link in here. We've put it in the link from the video yesterday. Applications are accepted. The cart is open. There is going to be special pricing for anyone who joins this week. And so you will have until Saturday to, Luana, you're so welcome to join this week to get special pricing this week only. The cart will be open next week. The price will be higher next week. And so I would encourage you to apply so that we can get you those details and you can decide what is best for you. What I can say is this: so often I have thought, like, this sounds like a yes for me, but I'm not sure. Do I really have the time? Can I really afford it? All of these things. Sometimes we have to decide what we want, and we have to really go within and meditate and ask for guidance on what is the most efficient path to get me to where I want to be, right? In this season of my life, what's the most aligned way? When we decide that, when we say that prayer, that affirmation, I believe that we are guided and that we are led to the next right step. For many of you, this program is your next right step because I have wasted so much time, honestly, and so much money trying to buy different aspects of this program that I created in multiple different places. I didn't find one place that had everything. So I created it. And I understand the importance of valuing someone's time, someone's energy, someone's investment. It's not anything that I take lightly. And I want you to have the tools that you need to have the impact that you desire, the income that you desire, and the freedom that you desire because you are worthy and deserving of it. We will be back tomorrow for day 4. I'll post the details on my page. If you have questions, DM me or comment below and I'll circle back and we'll post the application in the comment section as soon as we wrap today. I love you so much. If you have someone that you know in your world who you think could benefit from this conversation over the past 3 days, who could benefit from this program, please share this content with them. Please tag them below. If they decide to sign up, have them mention your name. You will receive an affiliate fee that's $750. We will share that with you for referring someone to the program that signs up. And so that's the same for alumni as well. If you have someone who you think would benefit from this, share it with them, have them list you, your name, and we will make sure that you get paid your affiliate fee. I am so delighted to have shared this with you today. I'm excited about Thursday and Friday. We will do content both days, question and answers both days, and begin to share with you in detail about the program, about the modules, about what we're covering, the format for this year, and the format for next year. When you enroll this year, you get the expanded version for 23 as a bonus. It's huge. It's literally um, a few $1,000s. Like it's a savings if you enroll this year and have the access to next year. The alumni get that too, which is exciting. Diana says, "What time tomorrow?" Let me double check. We are going to do. We're gonna do 11 o'clock tomorrow. So we'll do 11 o'clock tomorrow. And yeah, 11 tomorrow. I'll post more on my page. I love you so much. Thank you for being here. Bye for now.